Catholic democracy advocate and media magnate Jimmy Lai has been jailed in Hong Kong since December of 2020. The Chinese regime claims he violated China's national security law for, among other things, his role in pro-democracy demonstrations in 2019. Well, this week, the Bradley Foundation will bestow on Jimmy Lai its Bradley Prize, which his son will receive on his behalf. Joining me now to discuss his father's fight for democracy, his ongoing imprisonment and trial, and the deterioration of freedom in Hong Kong is Jimmy's son, Sebastien Lai. Sebastien, welcome back to the program. Thank you for being here. You were here in Washington back in March, I believe, to meet with lawmakers and Trump administration officials to advocate to help hasten your father's release. Now, last year, just prior to his re-election, President Trump indicated that he would do what he could to help your father's release, saying he was 100% able, or would be 100% able, to secure Jimmy's release. What has been the fruit of that March visit? What are you hearing?
So thank you very much for having me. We met people from the NSC and state as well. And yeah, I mean, I think, everybody is incredibly on side, and it's just, look, it's been 4 years. He's 77. He could die at any point. It's time to have him out. It's just, at this point, it's just cruelty what they're doing to him in Hong Kong, and he needs to be released immediately.
I thought I read, Sebastien, correct me if I'm wrong, President Trump said that he would be willing to make Jimmy's release, your father's release, a part of a negotiation with China. Did you pick that up? Have you heard that?
Yeah, I saw that, and it's given us so much hope. We've been incredibly grateful for the president's support, and as well as his moral clarity on my father's case. Yeah, we're very, very hopeful.
Well, as you mentioned, your father is now 77 years old, a British national. Jimmy Lai has been in prison since 2020, held in solitary confinement in Hong Kong since at least 2023. We're really unsure. We don't have full confirmation. His trial, which was originally estimated to last about 90 days, has been ongoing, dragging on since December of 2023. Sebastien, how is your father's health, and what is the status of his case and the trial at this point?
So his trial's ongoing. As you mentioned, it was delayed multiple times, finally starting at the end of 2023. Meant to last 90 days. Obviously, it's lasted much more than 90 days. It's still not done now. Closing is going to happen in August. Sentencing probably sometimes in 2026, by which point it would have lasted 2 years. And my father would be 78, and he would have spent 5 years in jail, and actually in solitary confinement. So it's not, unfortunately, we are very worried about him. He's got diabetes. 15 days of solitary confinement is considered prolonged solitary confinement. He's been in there for more than 1,600 days. He can't go to mass. They blocked off natural light for him. I'm very, thank God he has faith, because it's his pillar. It's what holds him strong. On the stand, he was when he gave testimony, he physically was much more frail, weaker, but spiritually and intellectually still very strong. He knows that he did the right thing, and he knows that he did the right thing by God.
Just last week, in a letter to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, it was signed by 22 former prisoners who'd been detained abroad and their family members, and it urges the Prime Minister to act on Jimmy's release before it's too late. The signatories write, "We know firsthand the horrors of these cases and the reality of living every day with the knowledge you may never see your loved one again. We also know that resolving these cases and bringing British citizens home to the UK depends on robust, principled, strategic action by the UK government." Sebastien, as a British national yourself, you've requested a meeting with the Prime Minister. Have you received a response?
So I haven't been able to meet with the Prime Minister yet, unfortunately. Obviously it is disappointing. Again, this is an urgent case. My father doesn't have a lot of time left. We are in a situation now where, as you've seen, with the United States. We have incredible support. We have President Trump saying that he will do more than just speak up for my father. That he'll put actions behind words. And I really hope that our governments will do the same. The British government will do the same, because in the end of the day, the freedoms that my father stood for are not, are not freedoms that are just relevant to the UK or to Hong Kong. It's freedoms globally. And the fact that you have this man who has the courage to stay in Hong Kong and stand with his journalists, knowing full well that he could very well end up in jail for the rest of his life, but he stands there. I mean, isn't that someone that we should not only aspire to, but want to do all we can to free?
Yeah, and Sebastien, to put this in context, for those who may not know, your father was a leading media mogul in Hong Kong, a billionaire. He could easily have gotten on a jet and gotten out of Hong Kong when things started to go south. He made the decision to support the pro-democracy movement and then to be really an exemplar of faith, I would argue a white martyr, for his faith and the cause of freedom. Do you think British diplomacy might tip the balance here? Why do you think the British have been so quiet?
So the UK government. So the UK government have been better on my father's case since the start. At the start, I'll be honest, they weren't good at all. But this administration seems to care a bit more. I mean, they say that it's the highest priority. If it is the highest priority, then surely meeting the Prime Minister will show that. But not just to the family, which is important, but more importantly to my father's captors, to show that this is a man that we care about, this is a man that they can't keep persecuting, and that this whole trial is entirely a sham trial, because under no world are the freedoms that my father stood for, standing up peacefully for those freedoms, a crime.
Yeah, tell me about the nature of this trial. I mean, this thing has stopped and started so many times. What does it tell you about the case and the nature of the people that you're dealing with here?
I mean, obviously it's been a horrible 4 years for my father, but this trial has essentially exonerated him. They had all these allegations coming in about how he was, doing this for, financial reasons, which is it's mental gymnastics. That's insane. Mm-hmm. And that he was, this black hand behind the protests or whatever it is. So we are in a trial now where there's 3 government-appointed judges, allegations of a government witness being tortured, and they have found that not only did my father not do this for money, he did it because it was the right thing to do. In fact, if he did this for money, he wouldn't have stayed in Hong Kong to protect his journalists. They've also found that whenever he met with students was to tell them to be peaceful. So not only was he not this black hand, he was this moral force.
Right.
And he never called for extremist views or Hong Kong independence and whatnot. It was always democracy as promised under the Joint Declaration.
And I know, as you mentioned earlier, his faith has become such a support for him, really the foundation of his continuing his life in prison and being a source of hope for so many around the world. Is he allowed any contact with priests at all? Or I imagine they deny him the sacraments as well.
Yeah. So from my understanding, he can't go to Mass. Regarding Eucharist, he for long periods, he has not received Eucharist. Yeah. Now, I don't know if they've given him Eucharist since then, but for a long period, of years on end, he has not received Eucharist as a way to spite him. And look, this is a man who, in solitary confinement, it's him and God. And actually, there was a beautiful moment, or bittersweet, I should say, where he was on the stand and these government-appointed judges are just shouting at him. And he stops for a second and looks at them and says, in the end of the day, the truth will come out in the kingdom of God. And that's good enough for me. Mm-hmm. And a man who had so much, who gave up so much, for him to say that, it's just, you know how important religion is to him. You hear it in his voice, you see it in his actions, and the fact that he wouldn't be able to go to Mass, it's just, it's a bit of humanity that they're denying him.
It's a hardship. No, this is why I say he's a white martyr, because you have elements of the church, his own government, and other people who should be speaking out, they've been relatively silent about his case, and he's suffering there as an emblem. I know from people who live in Hong Kong what an emblem of hope and faith he now represents. And look, among my treasured possessions, Sebastien, is a image of the crucifixion that your father drew in prison and sent to me in a letter. And it's drawn in pencil and pencil colors. And it's such a beautiful example of his faith. And I know I'm not the only one who received these. He sent them to multiple friends around the world as a sign, I think, of the deep faith that still pulses within him. And look, you mentioned it a moment ago. Jimmy Lai, your father, is diabetic. His health is deteriorating in prison. Does he have any access to doctors? Do you know? How in touch are you with him at this point?
So I can't go back to Hong Kong because I speak out on his behalf. Under the national security law, even liking the wrong social media post can mean that you end up being questioned by the police, or worse yet, being arrested. So I haven't been back. I haven't seen my father in the last 4 years. I would love to tell him, how much support he's getting, how many people pray for him. I think it would give him tremendous strength. I think from my understanding, he gets a prison doctor. He doesn't get independent medical advice.
And yeah, people should realize he's in this is in the summer. This prison, it's not properly air conditioned. He's under terrible circumstances, and in many cases, he's alone. So, I hope that will arrest people's attention, and certainly those in the positions to make a difference and to raise their voice in the United States, in all the free countries of Europe, and in the UK. And I know they listen, and members of the cabinet and the parliament listen to the show. Please act. This is your moment. And that ill-advised and still secret, Sebastien, Vatican-China deal. It was instituted in 2018. Inexplicably, it allows the CCP input in the appointment of Catholic bishops. Talk to me for a moment about the Vatican's odd diplomacy with the communist Chinese. This must be particularly vexing for you and your family. Give me, first of all, your thoughts on the deal, and secondly, have you reached out to the new Pope and this Vatican to raise its voice in defense of your father?
Yeah, the deal has been incredibly heartbreaking. You would see how, with Cardinal Zen, I'm not going to speak more about Cardinal Zen, but look, being able to name bishop is the ability to do that is holy. It's not something that could be franchised out or farmed out by some government. It's incredibly heartbreaking. Obviously, I'd be incredibly grateful and honored to meet the new Pope. I think him adding his voice to call for my father's release, him showing support in such a clear case, of a persecuted Christian, would give many people in China hope, and would definitely give my father hope, and I think would put pressure on people to finally release him. If he's watching this, I really do hope that I get to meet him, or that he at least calls my father's release. It would mean the world.
Well, in the past week, I believe it was Sunday, he called for prayers for the people in China and the unity of the Chinese with the Holy See. That was an interesting departure, something we have not heard in many a year. So I hope Pope Leo, moves on not only this case, but moves to take a serious and hard look at that Vatican-China deal that needs revision, if not complete abandonment. It needs to be thrown aside. The Bradley Foundation, on a happier note, here in the United States, has named your father its honorary prize winner for 2025. The prize is bestowed on individuals whose extraordinary work exemplifies the Foundation's mission to restore and strengthen and protect the principles and institutions of American exceptionalism and honors the ideals of the Western tradition. Sebastien, what does this honor mean to you and your family? And I suppose your father's not aware of the honor at this point.
I don't believe that he's aware, but I know that he would be incredibly honored to receive this award. Yeah, I mean, it just shows that there are people that care about what's happening in Hong Kong, and that's what's happening to my father. And in the end, a man's courage to give up everything that he has, to stand up for what is right, it reverberates through time. And I think that's an example of people seeing that and honoring him with this wonderful award.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, what can viewers do to help support your efforts to free your dad? I know you're leading the Free Jimmy Lai campaign on social media, hashtag Free Jimmy Lai, and you have Support Jimmy Lai on X. What else can people do?
Please, write to your congressman. Just tell my father's story. My father has a beautiful story, and a story that for many Americans and people who love freedom should speak to deep inside. And if you can, next time you're in church, just say a little prayer for him, light a candle for him. I think, just in some sense, the Hong Kong government wants to tell him that he's fighting by himself in his little cell. But he's not. He's fighting for everybody. He's fighting for everybody's freedom. So I think just lighting a candle and praying for him is a reminder of that.
Well, Sebastien, you can see his spirit alive in you, and prayers are certainly with you, your father, the entire Lai family. Our congratulations on this honor, the Bradley Prize, but even better would be the release of Jimmy Lai, which we continue to pray for. Thank you for your time and for being here, and please stay in touch.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, sir.